Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today's going to be my thoughts on, and today I finally get to talk about Warhammer Fest. I know it happened like a week ago, but I've just come off the back of my exam period. I actually finished them now, so I can actually finally stop and talk about Warhammer Fest at a decent amount of length. Now I know a lot happened at Warhammer Fest, so I'm going to break this video down into two halves, not because I'm feeling lazy, but because I don't think people really want to sit for 45 minutes in one go. So today I'm going to be talking about everything revolving around Age of Sigmar. Basically, this is my thoughts on AoS 2, but also just about Warhammer Fest, so I've kind of spoiled the entire video now. But tomorrow, or the day after that, depending on when I get it recorded, I am going to put out the everything else from Warhammer Fest. So we'll talk about the Plasticista battle, we'll talk about Titanicas, we'll talk about all the other things that happened at Warhammer Fest that are not directly linked to Age of Sigmar and or its new edition. I'm also going to try and not talk too much about the stuff that we didn't get at Warhammer Fest, but I have got a couple of articles I want to show you from Warhammer community from this week, mainly to show off the new models, and also to show off a little bit about what's going on with the rules. So, let's get to it. As I've already said, Warhammer Fest announced Age of Sigmar 2, the second edition for this game, and really, possibly a move that I didn't see coming. It's certainly not a move I saw coming, because I sort of forgot that editions existed. I kind of thought Age of Sigmar was in a state where we never were going to have editions again. It was just going to be one rolling rule set that, yeah, okay, it got patched, and yeah, we had the handbook, but I kind of didn't think we were going to get new editions for it. But then again, having seen some of the things that are perhaps wrong with the game, they would require a very hard patch to get them out of the game. And if they ever wanted to rework a system, as they're now going to do, yeah, they kind of needed to introduce an entirely new addition to the game. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying it's something that I hadn't noticed and had sort of forgotten might happen. But it's happening, and this is my thoughts on it, because honestly, I saw it in the morning when I woke up that Saturday, and it was just like, oh my god, wow, bouncing off the walls, amazing. Because I've got very invested in Age of Sigmar this year. You've probably noticed by the amount of AoS content on the channel. And I really want this game to do well. I already made a video a couple of weeks ago where I said Age of Sigmar's doing a lot of good stuff this year. And AoS 2 is the perfect way to capitalise on the momentum and the impetus it's got at the moment and keep driving forward and keep making the game better and better and better. This is Age of Sigmar's golden age. Let's go with it while we've got it. So let's go over to the brief introduction to the new edition. Rather than go through the live blog, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it this way. So these are the things that you can expect with the new rulebook as much as anything else. So it's coming out in June, which is great. We're not going to have to wait any more than 6 weeks. I'm thinking it will probably be out sort of mid-June, give or take. And they're finally pushing the narrative. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but the fact that they're finally giving us maps. Like, for God's sake, why is it that it's taken us 3 years to get maps of things like action? I mean, I went through this map on a stream, and we went through it to try and fit everything together, and blimey, that was a right old challenge. Let's see if I can get this to show up full screen. How's that look? Okay, that looks alright. Yeah, so you actually now see how everything fits together. So, for those who know their Age of Sigmar, you'll know the name Hammerhal Aksha, which is... oh god, I've lost it. Hammerhal, which is kind of in the middle. The Flamescar Plateau is a name that I know. You've got the stuff with Korgus Kull down a bit toward the southwest. And there's plenty more here that promises to just link everything together. I don't know all the details because A, I don't know my AoS lore too well, and B, I'm not very good at reading that particular map. It's very, very small, but I'm just excited to read it. I'm so excited to read it. And they're talking up here, wondering what's happened to Slanesh, what the Elven Gods are up to, what it was like during the Age of Myth. That's just brilliant. That's just world building. And that's what AoS has lacked in its lore. The stories that it's put out, either through Malign Portents or the various novels or the stories you get in the books, are great. The stories are great, but they are standalone stories. They aren't interconnected the same way. There's no baseline to the universe. And that's what hopefully we're going to get. We're going to get a bit of a history lesson, we're going to get a bit of a geography lesson, and we're going to just see how everything fits together so that we can contextualize the stories that we have. So, where is Exeltis in the realm of beasts? Why is it that so many Stormcast chambers and co are based there? And why was it built there particularly, perhaps? And all of those things are just important bits of world building that I think Age of Sigmar really still needs, and hopefully they'll do that. I'm hoping that this is the foundation laying for the lore of AoS, where you just set the foundations that the stories can then be placed on top of to allow us to build the world. And if we want to do narrative things with that, like create our own campaigns, well, now we have maps, we have context, we have reasons for things. And that to me is as important as any set of rules. But speaking of rules, the new edition features the most comprehensive look at the core rules since General's Handbook 1, and they'll have an equally huge impact. They've gone through every game, a lot of play testing, which is great. So, we've got a little bit of information here, a little bit from Pete Foley in his teaser video. So the first thing, you can't shoot out of combat anymore. That doesn't mean to say you can't shoot into combat, he didn't say that. Doesn't mean to say you can't shoot while in combat, he didn't say that either. He said you can't shoot out of combat. So the way I interpret that is, if you are charged, you can still shoot the unit that has charged you. That's how I'm reading that rule. So if you're in a combat with a unit, you can shoot that unit. You cannot shoot another unit, and you can still be shot at, I think. I'm not sure, and I'm hoping we'll get a clarification on that, but that's how I took the you can't shoot out of combat anymore to me. They also say we're getting command points. Now, this could go one of two ways. It could go really well, or it could go really badly, because 40k's command point system is interesting. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I'm not saying it's a perfect system. I'm just hoping they can learn some of the lessons of 40k, where spamming command points to just get cheap bonuses over and over might be worth doing. So I'm hoping that we don't see expansive stratagems. I'm sort of hoping that command points are used, say, for a reroll of the double turn dice, or, I don't know, maybe, yeah, just like a critical reroll somewhere, something like that. I don't want them to go OTT with command points and try and make them as integral to winning the game as they have for 40k, because in 40k they can almost borderline be busted. So I'm hoping they don't overdo it, but I do need to make it impactful in some way, so I'm curious about that. And they mentioned here a more strategic double turn. Now, we've actually had the article on that, which I'm not going to show you. But basically, the choice of priority in AoS 1, as I'm going to call the current edition, or the last edition as it's going to be, was a completely random roll-off. Both players rolled a dice, and the winner got to pick who went first in that battle round. That was it. If it was a tie, you rolled again until you had a winner. Now, they've ever so slightly tweaked it, where a tie means that the priority and the choice stays with whoever had it in the previous battle round. Therefore, you are ever so slightly less likely to get double turned. This is huge to me. I know it's a tiny, tiny change. It's insignificant, really. But contextually, that just is so useful, because I always felt like in AoS 1, you had no incentive to go first. At all. Most ranged weapons were not in range, most spells were not in range on the first turn. Most of them had about an 18, 24 inch range. Of course, there were guns and spells that had more range than that, but the only reason you want to go first is to get a set of defensive buffs and or take cover before your opponent's turn. You were under no obligation to want to rush forward, because you knew that your opponent could rush up to you whilst being in range of you because you moved first, and then had a, well, arbitrary, they call it a 50-50 shot of getting double turn and running you over. This happened to me so many times that even if I didn't move and played hyper defensive, I literally would not move or would just play defensive, I'd still get double turned and run over. It was exceptionally annoying. And so now that there's a little bit more consistency in who's going to be going first, maybe you have a reason to play aggressively on turn 1, aside from, well, I don't have a choice. You might now think, well, is it worth paying the points for that battalion just to get one less drop so that I can go second and then get the chance to double turn? I know it's a small change, but I'm glad it's there, because double turn, to me, is one of my most hated mechanics. I understand why it's there, I get the tactical depth of it, but the fact that it's there on turn 1, effectively making it a chance to get utterly ruined on turn 2, when you have no say in the matter against particularly quick-moving armies that are made particularly of cavalry, you could just get double-turned and run over. So I'm hoping that this change is impactful, and maybe there'll be more to it that we haven't seen yet. Is there anything else that we have here? Not particularly. So they're just talking about narrative campaigns. You've got a lot of open options. So Triumph and Treachery sticking around, multiplayer sticking around, match play sticking around, all that sort of thing. 3 ways to play is still a thing. And honestly, all of these changes are just good. We haven't seen most of them, and I haven't talked about one particular one that we also know about. But they promise that they looked at every single phase and are going to give them a workover to make sure that they're in a better position than they were in AoS 1. I don't know what they're going to change. I'm curious what they will change, and I'm hoping that they will change a few things. So, for example, I personally think that small arms fire, unless it's like spammed, is kind of ineffectual. So the shooting of my Stormcast Eternals, unless it's like dedicated shooting units en masse, doesn't really do a lot. And especially compared to magic, it's basically doing very little at all. But that's a personal thing, because I basically play an army that has pistols a lot. I understand shooting is very powerful, and you might want to rework it so that shooting is less powerful by, for example, not being able to shoot out of combat. But there's little things that I think could be changed, but I wouldn't want to comment on them because I'm not experienced enough to know. If there's anything you want to see in the new edition that we haven't had previewed yet, do let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you think AoS 2 should be doing. And it's interesting as well that they are taking the command point system. Whether they rework it or not, we'll have to see. But the fact that they're taking it sort of reinforces a video I made a few months ago. It was my Christmas Day video, actually. I said the fact that 40k has learned from Age of Sigmar in order to make 8th edition the best game it can be. And now it looks like AoS is taking from 40k and taking the best bits from that to make it the best game it can be. And this is the relationship I want them to have. I want them to have this symbiotic relationship where they're entirely separate games, entirely separate universes, but they sort of borrow each other's best elements whilst remaining distinct and unique. So they've got their own things that they'll never take off of each other, and the things that they share with each other will be worked slightly differently, but they borrow from each other to try and make both games as successful as possible for all aspects of the game. So I'm really on board with what they're doing so far, and if they push the lore as hard as they say they're pushing the lore, I'm stupidly down. I just want this rulebook so I can read all the lore and get all the details, man. I just want them. I should also note we're getting some fun little table-y things, so like custom objective markers and some stuff like that, but I'm not going to discuss that here because time is kind of limited. We're also going to look at some very shiny new models. Oh boy. Nighthorns. We'll start with Nighthorns, then we will do the Stormcast Eternals. So, these are the Chain Rasp Hordes, the sort of battle line of the Nighthorns, and they look so good. I mean, you might think they look a little bit derpy. I mean, I know some people have utterly buried them, metaphorically speaking. That's a double good pun. But I think they just look really good because they're sort of half physical, half ethereal. You can tell that they're spirits. At a glance, you would say that is a spirit. That's not a flying skull. That is a spirit. And I think that's really, really good. The Glaive Wraith Stalkers, or as I probably shouldn't have nicknamed them, the Ghosts of Remlays, which I think are sort of brought from Welsh myth, although I'm not that up on the details. They are hunters, or hunters who hunted men, apparently. So these are really not good people. So these Nighthorns are bad people. So these sort of said above with the Chain Rasp Hordes, they're people who weren't good enough to say, actually I'll go back up and have a read of it. So they were not good enough to be Stormcast, not evil enough to become Chaos. They're just hordes of souls. Whereas the Glaive Wraith Stalkers were manhunters, maybe bounty hunters or just sadistic individuals who maybe weren't dedicated to chaos. Now they've become slow, unstoppable hunters for Nagash. You then got the Grimghast Reapers, the skulls of assassins and murderers, and they've been punished by turning them into indiscriminate murderers. They've been blinded. Yes, apparently they can see out of their eye sockets, so they're actually blind now, and they've been taken away from being these subtle killers to being these berserkers. That's a really nice touch, well played, Nagash. And again, you just get the idea, like, it is like the Grim Reaper, but it fits into the Nighthaunt aesthetic, and they do feel unearthly, spiritual, which is great. The Lord Executioner, I'm thinking this is going to be one of your sub-heroes, so maybe someone like the Isharan Soul Render, who can provide buffs to nearby units and be a bit of a beat stick, but generally doesn't do much. So they're hangmen who overly enjoyed their work or were known killers of the innocent, and that's, again, a really neat touch. And again, they feel incorporeal, but still menacing enough because you've got the mix of the real and the unreal and the spirit host floating around, maybe the spirits of those they slew in their past lives, and they're so good. The Guardian of Souls is a Nighthaunt wizard, so they're going to be able to provide a buff to local Nighthaunts, I think, as well as being a magic user. These, I'm not sure about the helmet. I don't know, the sort of stupidly long metal beard thing doesn't really do it for me, but it's a good one nonetheless. I think with a head swap it would look even better. And we got the Mounted Knight of Shrouds. I love this model. Like, genuinely, I love this model. I think this model is fantastic. It looks great. Like, if I played Death, I'd put this in an army even if I wasn't going to collect Nighthorn. It looks that good, and I could see people converting that, if they wanted to maybe, to be a mount for a Vampire Lord perhaps. And if you look at it, you can see that he has no legs. There's no legs that mount the Knight of Shrouds on that steed. He's just gripping its rein, and that's it. Everything else is just floating, and it's unearthly. But that's what it's supposed to be, and I love it. And then we get this. So this is the Spirit Torment. It's another War Scrolls of pitiless jailers. In Death, they seek out those that Nagash deems his by right of rulership. So these guys are sort of anti-Stormcast, lore-wise and also gameplay-wise. But look at it. So these are new War Scrolls. And they remind me of Silver Tower. That's the first thing that came to mind when I saw them. So that's just interesting that they've redesigned the War Scrolls. I don't quite know why, but they have, and they've probably got useful little flashcards to replicate the War Scrolls in the box that look a little bit more like that. I'm kind of okay with that. As you can see, the Nighthorn are going to be quite quick. They've got 5 wounds, 4 up save, pretty standard. They also ignore Render because they're ethereal. That's the Nighthaunt's gimmick, effectively. And they can do a bunch of healing if enemies are killed, particularly if Stormcast are killed. Or you can return units to life, which is kind of nice. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, ethereal. Ignore modifiers when making save rolls. So they don't get cover bonuses, but they also ignore rend. And they also do a little bit of buffing as well. We also got, not from Warhammer Fest officially, but from the AoS Facebook page, we got a mention of a new Mortarch. The Mortarch of Grief, who's going to lead the Nighthaunt, and that is fascinating. Now, when we were talking about this on stream, we sort of debated it might be Isabella von Karstein, but we don't know yet, and I'm very curious to see who you think it might be. Again, let me know in the comments. And then, the Stormcast happened. Oh, I'm sorry, Ideneth, you might have to wait a couple more months, because these guys, the Sacrosanct Chamber, these guys look amazing for the most part. I'll get into my particular favourites a little bit later. So, yes, okay, it's more Stormcast. I know not everybody wants more Stormcast, but Games Workshop embraced the memes and, my Lord Sigmar, you can't just open another chamber to solve all your problems. The hell I can't. Button mash. It was just a fantastic trailer. I love that trailer. Seriously, if you haven't watched that trailer, go and watch that trailer. It's amazing. It's so meme-worthy. I love it. And I seriously hope Sigmar would actually like that. I wish. But hey. So, yeah. I know it's more Stormcast, and that's probably not what people wanted in some cases, but I just think the models are great anyway, and if they're well justified lore-wise, I'm down. These guys have been in the lore for ages. They're in the Stormcast Battle Tome. We knew nothing about them, and now we knew. They're wizards. So their battle line unit, or maybe battle line if unit, we're not sure yet, are the Sequitors, or Sequitas. I'm going with Sequitor. So they specialise in fighting demons and undead. So they're kind of like light wizards from Warhammer Fantasy. You've got bonuses against undead and demon units. They have the ability to supercharge their weapons or shields, which is kind of a cool ability. So I'm thinking that will be a massive save, a big reroll to save or save bonus, or maybe a +1 rend or +1 damage bonus against certain units. I'm not sure. Then you have the Evocators. I'm going with Evocator. So they're a hybrid of Paladin and Battle Wizard, which is a very cool combo. And while some of them are maybe not the best designs in the world, I think they do look pretty damn good overall. The armor is not very Paladin-y. It's actually more like basic Stormcast armor rather than Paladins. So why they're called Paladin hybrids, I'm not sure, but there you go. And these guys will be able to do most of your magic, I suspect. I'll be curious to see how they work their magic, because Battle Wizards obviously can learn from many different laws, and so that they might be Amethyst, Celestial, Fire. At least they were in the old days, and I forget how Battle Wizards work right now. So it'll be interesting if their spells are locked to a certain law, or whether you can specialise them game to game. You then have the Castigators, who basically have crossbow grenade launchers? Okay, I'm not sure I quite wanted noob tubes in crossbow form, but there you go. It's an interesting idea. These are probably my least favourite Sacrosanct models, and I probably won't pick them up unless they prove to be utterly critical to making any Stormcast line work. Oops, overshot. The Celestial Ballista, now this I'm picking up. This looks great. It's an actual war machine, which makes sense why the Lord Ordinator exists. Super down with that, thank you very much. And hopefully it'll just give the Stormcast a chance to play that artillery line and play alongside other Order armies that want to do it without just being a supporting force. And finally, the Lord Arcanum. I'm going with Arcanum, not Arcanum. Yeah, fight me. Please don't. But just, oh, this model. Plus, they've actually been hinted at in one of the Malimportant stories. So these guys oversee the Anvil of Apotheosis, where the Souls of Dead Stormcast are reforged, and there's a short story on Malimportance where the reforging process kind of goes wrong, and the Lord Arcanum has to deal with it, basically by chucking the soul back in there until it's broken and fixed. Well, that doesn't work, but you know what I mean. So that means that they get healing abilities, which reflects their lore brilliantly, and oh, yeah. Like, just look at this model. Like, do I have to explain it to you? This model is gorgeous. Even if I get nothing else for the Sacrosanct Chamber, I'm getting a Lord Arcanum. Because they just look amazing. They really, really do. I'm so down. And you could probably, if you have a Knight Vexillor, I bet you could create a wicked battle standard out of that. Because the staff is up. So if the top part is just like stick on, stick off, you could probably put the banner of the Knight Vexillor there and create this fluttering battle standard. And oh, that sounds like such a good idea. I might actually have to do that if I get a spare Lord Arcanum, because I'm building one straight out of the box typically. Oh, I love this model. I really do. And then we also get the Knight in Kandor, which is their new sub-hero. I won't go over in too much detail, but she sort of works like a normal Stormcast, so 5/5, 3 up, so Paladin stats. Kind of typical. They've got a free Dispel Scroll. They've basically got a Dispel Scroll for those who run fantasy. They've also got grenades, so they can smash these flasks once per game to do a big little mortal wound nuke, but this can kill themselves. So they basically can sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of seppuku themselves. It's like, mass bomb charge, I'm about to be overrun, throw down 3 mortal wounds to everything near me, blah. I'm sorry, I'm dumb sometimes, but that's kind of what I was thinking you could use them for, as well as obviously being able to finish off wounded heroes to make great assassin characters. That probably will work for that. And for spells, well, they get a 7 to cast spell, which nukes everything within 18 inches and creates an aura of you -1 to run and charge. That spell is bonkers. If that's a casting value 7 spell in Age of Sigmar, I get the feeling that the basic spells are getting a price cut because Mystic Shield are casting 6 and that casting 7, and Arcane Bolt are casting 5 and then at casting 7. That's just utterly bonkers. So that might be an indicator of what Magic's going to look like. And yeah, that's just fun. Is there anything else down here? There's the trailer, which has got the cavalry, which we haven't looked into because we haven't seen them yet. But they look really interesting, and I'm very fascinated to see how they're going to work. But that's the Stormcast, and oh, I just want some Sacrosanct Chamber right now. Give me this new edition, please. And I want to finish by looking at the Ironjawz faction focus very, very quickly, because this talks about endless spells. These are the big giant ball thing, the big purple death ball, which I'm thinking is the purple sun reincarnated, the twin balls of lightning that reflect, I think, Haish and Ulgu. You've got the big burning skull. You've got the big water vortex that reminds me of the thing out of Harry Potter 5? Harry Potter 5, yeah. You know the one, the big whirly water death ball that Dumbledore does. That's what it reminds me of. But we get a little bit of a hint of how they work. So it's an endless spell. So you cast it, and it stays on the board and just sort of runs around. Did we get its name? It's a Ravenak. Okay, it's called a Ravenak. After it moves, everything it passes over, and everything within 1 inch at the end takes D3 mortal wounds, and then you subtract 1 from the bravery of each unit that's had any models passed on to the end of the battle round. Okay, so it just runs around and eats everything, and scares them while you do it. That's a fun little thing. We don't know yet how much control you're going to have over endless spells. They say they're going to be revealing more later at the time of recording. They might actually do this in these 2 days between me recording this and you watching it. But we don't know how much control you're going to have, or whether they're just going to float around at random. So it'll be a case of you put the power in to cast the spell, but then it's out of control, or whether you manifest it and then you maybe have to cast it again to keep control of it, or is it going to be always under your control? That might be too powerful. I don't know. We'll have to see how endless spells are going to function, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to function, but I just wanted to show you that very briefly. And that's the long and short of it. There's an intro to the Mortal Realms article, so if you're thinking of getting into Age of Sigmar for the first time, maybe you want to start there. We also know that the rules are staying free, and the General's Handbook will be coming out alongside these new rules to get everything up to date immediately. And that's great. We just need that, really, to keep everything on the board, because it would be a bit annoying to wait for 5 months to get the new points values as things get changed drastically, particularly in terms of Magic. And the Malign Sorcery expansion, whatever that's going to bring. I'm hoping that Storm of Magic 2.0, oh my god, please. So there's so much going on right now that I think we needed to get a new General's Handbook just to catch everybody up. So that every army is rebalanced for the new edition, so we get a more condensed alliance matrix so everyone can see where everything is. And we get to see how the new game modes, the old game modes work, so Triumph for Treachery, multiplayer, etc, etc, etc. And that's it. That is my thoughts on AoS 2 and Age of Sigmar at Warhammer Fest. I haven't shown you everything that went on at Warhammer Fest. So, for example, the largest AoS kit ever, that dragon. Oh my goodness me, that model's gorgeous. Was there anything else urgent on the AoS front? I don't think so. Almost all of it was condensed into AoS 2. But yeah, I'm stupidly excited for AoS 2. And I cannot wait to get it. And I'm hoping that I'll probably make a couple more videos between now and then where I'll talk about the updates. So at the very least, I'll stream it. So if you want to stay up to date with what I'm thinking about AoS 2, check my live streams, or I'll try and get a video out just summing things up maybe every couple of weeks. And then when the editions come out, we'll get a final summary of all the things that we think are going to into it. I might even try and find other members of the community that I can sit down with and have a talk, see what I can do about that. So let me know what you think in the comments below. With AoS 2 now on the way, is this maybe the impetus you needed to get into Age of Sigmar? Is there an army you now think might be what you want to collect? Whatever, really. Just let me know your thoughts on the changes. If you're an old player, if you're a new player, just let me know. And I know there are those of you who watch my videos and will not play AoS. You've made yourselves very clear in a couple of recent videos what I've done. But, hey, if there's a time to give it a chance, maybe this is it. So, thank you all for watching. This has been Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you very soon for the rest of my thought on Warhammer Fest. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Okay, so I literally just stopped recording, refreshed the page, and we got another damn article. And it's actually something I was talking about in the video. Why? Just my bloody luck. So, command abilities. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be recording a bonus segment. I literally stopped recording, refreshed Facebook, and at the top of my bloody feed, have a look at our new shiny command abilities. And now I get the answer to the question I was asking like 20 minutes ago. So, before, I know you've probably gone down and said, Matt, they previewed this already. And he's like, yeah, I know, I've just seen it. So we'll talk about it now. Alright, so, command abilities have actually had a bit of a rework. Actually, they've had a lot of a rework. So, in the new edition, the hero phase has been expanded to provide a new tactical layer, diddly-diddly-dee. Command abilities for everyone. There are loads of awesome command abilities, but in the previous edition, some would almost never see play because they weren't being used on models that were generals. Correct. In the new edition, every hero can contribute and use their command ability whether they're your general or not. So if you had a model that had a redonkulous command ability, but you couldn't really put it as a general because you needed another model to be your general to get a certain command ability, well, now you get both, but there's a catch. In terms of all sorts of possibilities, you're free to choose the heroes you want, diddly-diddly-diddly-diddly-diddly. The twist is, to use your command abilities, you'll have to use command points. So you get one command point at the start of every turn, and you get an additional point at the beginning of the game per War Scroll Battalion. So that says per turn, not per battle round, just FYI. So you will get one on your turn and on your opponent, so you should have 2 command points if you don't use one in the opponent's turn. Well, at least that's how I read it. I might be getting that wrong. And then if you use battalion to get additional ones at the start of the game, kind of like you get extra relics and extra heroes. No, relics and it's just artifacts. Or am I missing something? I think it's just artifacts that you unlock. Sorry, being dumb. So you might want to refrain from using command ability in one turn to use 2 in the next, and you can get more out of your stuff, which is cool. So this turns the hero phase into a tense battle of wits. So I actually really quite like the concept of what they're doing with this. So command abilities are a unique aspect to Age of Sigmar, and by making them just auto-cast, obviously that just meant that whoever had the best command ability was ergo your general, unless they were flimsy as flip. So you basically never had a reason not to just pick the best command ability and go with it, because it could do some utterly broken things, and you could always have it going on as long as that general was alive. Now you're rewarded for a diverse range of heroes that all have command abilities. So, taking the Stormcast, for example, you can now give out the aura of immunity to battle shock of the Lord Skeleton on Dracoth, combine it with the teleportation of a Lord of Keylor, and combine it with the charge buffs of a foot-mounted Lord Skeleton. I don't know if you do all of those things in one turn, but you now can. And for armies that rely a lot on synergy, so they talk about Bloodbound or General Legions of Nagash, you can really start stacking the buffs up without having to rely on one particular ability to go off, which is really kind of nice. And it also means that if your general gets killed, well, yeah, that sucks, but you're no longer not using any command abilities anymore. You still have access to them, you just don't always have access to the best one. They've also added a set of universal command abilities. So Inspiring Presence is still around, but now they've reworked it, and they've also added some new ones that mean that you don't just have Inspiring Presence if you don't have a command ability on your War Scroll. So you can use the command ability at the start of the Battle Shock phase, either yours or your enemies. If you do so, a friendly unit within 6 inches of a hero or 12 inches of a general does not have to take Battle Shock. So, as they explain lower in the article, this means that if a unit you weren't expecting to get murdered suddenly gets murdered, well, now you can save them from Battle Shock at the last minute. It also means that you don't need to preemptively set off Inspiring Presence. You can save the command point on your turn, say, to keep that one back, get the second one, and then if your opponent smashes you, well, now you can give it to the units that need it most, rather than trying to outthink your opponent and basically double bluff yourself. Because you'd always just give it to your biggest unit or whatever, and it means that you've got a bit more flexibility with it. So I'm down with that. You also get at the double. So after you make a run roll for a friendly unit within 6 of a hero or 12 of a general, you can automatically treat it as a 6. So armies that have run and charge suddenly might want to save their command points for a turn. So maybe turn 1, they just let it tick, tick, and then they get to turn 2, tick, and then their turn 2 comes around, tick. They have 4 command points, plus the battalions, let's say 2. Suddenly that's 6 units that are allowed to automatically run 6. Which is massive for closing distance. Alternatively, you can save them to the charge phase for forward to victory. Again, 6 of a hero, 12 of a general, that's how they're making these universal abilities work. Reroll the charge roll. So again, if you've maximised your chance of closing distance and then you fluff it, well, that's okay. You now have a reroll. And it doesn't mean that, and it's not just a case of you can only use each hero once. So you can have 5 units around one hero and each of them can get the reroll, provided you have the points to pay for it. Obviously, the aura abilities that do this are more powerful, so an aura of reroll charges is still better, but it means that you don't have to rely on that hero's aura because you can have more heroes dotted about. And this means that heroes get a greater importance because now if you can kill them, that might work like taking out a locus of the army that was providing a buff to a corner of the battlefield. Whereas before, it was a case of, well, you don't really need that one or that one or that one, just kill that one, the command ability's gone, all's well that ends well with a chopper in it, as the orcs would like to say. So I'm very much on board with that. I think that's a really nice touch. And it also fixes what I was concerned about with command points. Yeah, and they also talk a bit more about that. So I'll just leave that there and you can have a think about some of the combos you might want to use, whilst I leave that on the screen for you to read. But this fixes what I was talking about 20 minutes ago in the video, where I said, well, if they just take the stratagem system and the command point system, well, that's going to be kind of stupid because like that should just be utterly broken. Whereas now it's a risk reward. Well, it's a double reward, but it is also a game of risk because you can spend your command point now to activate an ability, or you can save it for a round or two to let it tick, 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 and then have a turn where you splurge your command abilities, get a huge amounts of buffs off, and steamroll. There's a lot of tactical depth to it, and I think that's a really nice touch. So, command points, I'm alright with you. You and me can be friends. And now that finally is my thoughts on Age of Sigmar. Sorry about the little interlude there where I signed off, stopped the video, and then came back. It's a little bit dumb. But anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed the video and let me know what you think in the comments below, especially about this new thing now that I've mentioned it. So, for the second time, thank you all for watching Tactica Imperialis, and this has been my thoughts on Age of Sigmar 2 at Warhammer Fest. And I'll see you all again. Bye for now.